Good morning, people. Good morning once again. Today is Monday, December 8th, 2025. Here we are. It is about 6 o'clock on a wonderful morning here in southwestern Nevada. George Norrie Art Bell territory, which means it's Sin City, east of Death Valley, south of Area 51, hard scrabble, sharp elbowed, pistol packing, rootin' tootin' people. The harvest is ripe. The workers are few. A great opportunity here to help people on their journey through this life. And so our program, our daily podcast, Department of Career Services, is for our students and interested people to help on their journey through this life. Okay, we do it in 4 areas: physical, mental, emotional, and spiritual. The spiritual we do on the weekends, G School. During the week, we focus mainly on the physical, mental, and the emotional stuff. Light seems kind of yellow. Oh well. We'll fix it in editing, right? Okay. So today is the beginning of week 2. Once again, week 2, day 1, or day 1 of week 2 in our neuroscience-oriented approach to success. Last week was week 1. This is week 2. And in this week, we now are going to learn about the neuroscience inside my skull-sized kingdom. So we're trying to answer 2 questions. Who am I? Why do I behave the way I do? From an objective neuroscience perspective, not from a psychological perspective, not from a spiritual perspective, not from a sociological, not from a meteorological, from a neuroscience perspective. Who am I? Because what am I? I'm a collection of 100 trillion cells, 86 billion neurons, 10,000 connections each. None of them know who I am. None of them care who I am. And yet I am me. So who is that? And why do I behave the way I do? So if I know who I am and why I behave the way I do, I have the ability to dial in who I need to be right now. And that is our objective. To be able to be my best self right now, to be my most effective, most productive, best self right now, always focused on the North Star, which is where does my soul go after I have shuffled this mortal coil, after this body has been worn out, destroyed, etc. What happens next? And our belief, framed in a Wittgensteinian restraint, our belief is we continue the trajectory we are on. I think Baha'i does that too. We continue the trajectory we are on. So if we're heading down, we're going to keep going. If we're heading up, we're going to keep going. And it's based upon the belief that Jesus of Nazareth was who he said he was, which is God incarnate. And if God incarnate comes down and tells you, here's what you need to do. If it is God who came down as man and he said, here's what you need to do. 3 things. It's only 3. Segue. When Moses first came down, he came down with 13 commandments. And the people just weren't having it. So he said he'd go back up. He went back up, he came down, and he had 10. That's where the 10 commandments came from. It was really, I think it was 13. I'm pretty sure it was 13, but it was more than 10. He went back, he came down, and he said, in effect, okay, guys, I've got good news and bad news. The good news is it's down to 10. The bad news is adultery is still in. Right. Okay, there we go. So on with our show. Our theme of today is I am my connectome. I am my connectome. And the response to non-students is, what? What? I am my, what's a connectome? Okay. Simply and basically, it turns out the most important cells in our brain are neurons. And according to Susanna Herculano, we have about 86 billion of them in our brain. We have about 86 billion neurons in our brain. And I think it's about 18 in our prefrontal cortex. We have about 86 billion neurons in our brain. And every neuron connects to other neurons. The connectome is the number of neurons times the number of connections. That's it. It's a number. The connectome is a number. Neurons times connections. First example that Sebastian Song, our host in today's TED Talk, gives is of a worm, C. elegans. That's the, I guess, the genus of the worm. It has 300 neurons and a total of 7,000 connections. The connectome is 7,000. So if we wanted to do the math on that, we'd say, okay, 7,000 divided by 300 is approximately 23.3333333333 out connections per neuron. So some neurons have 20 connections, some have 26 connections, whatever, but an average of 23 connections per neuron. So the connectome of the worm C. elegans is 7,000. The connectome of a human is 86 billion times 10,000. Okay, so 86 billion times 1,000 would be 86 trillion. Add another zero, that would be 860 trillion connections in our brain. And that explains why we can do more than a worm. Because we have more power, more computing power, more neural ability for neural activity. Okay, so Sebastian Song's talk today is I am my connectome. I am what's stored in the neurons of my brain. Boom, mic drop. Okay, so we're going to come back to that. Let's move on to other things. Advice from an 80-year-old. Advice from an 80-year-old. Okay, who stole the advice from an 80-year-old? Oh, there it is. Always accept an outstretched hand. Ugh, ugh, ugh. Do I have to? Yes. Why? Because if we are headed to eternity, this doesn't really matter. These little petty things don't matter. That would be an example of ego. I don't want to accept an outstretched hand because my ego won't let me. Well, what if that was the key, the ticket, the Willy Wonka golden ticket to getting to eternity? How long is eternity? Well, it's forever, man. Okay, well, yeah, what does that mean? Let's do a Wittgensteinian restraint. Let's bring it down to something we can picture, because things that cannot be pictured cannot be said, because saying them means nothing. So let's take this and turn it into something. If we define eternity as the age of the universe, it's the total age of the universe as the best scientists in the world have calculated. Let's say that's 13.8 billion years. Let's say that is eternity. That is all of time up to the present. Let's just say that is eternity. And now let's turn eternity into a number that we can comprehend. 13.8 billion. I don't get that's a big number. So we'll turn it into distance. And if we say, if every step we walked was 1,000,000 years, how many steps would we have to walk to get 13.8 billion years? So that's simple math. 13.8 billion divided by 1,000,000. Okay, what's that equal? Okay, that's 13,800 steps. Okay, perfect. 13,800 steps. What does that mean? Well, let's say each step is 3 feet. So 13,800 steps times 3 is 41,000, something like that, 41,400 feet. If we divide that by 5,280 feet, i.e. a mile, it tells us how many miles that is, and that is about 7.84 miles. So if we turn 13.8 billion years into a distance where every step is 1,000,000 years, it would be a 7.84 mile walk. If we walked 7.84 miles, let's say 8 miles, that would be equivalent to eternity. Okay, good, cool. Compared to what? Now let's compare it to a life, a human life, a lifespan. Let's say a human life is 100 years. So we take that 1,000,000 years, that 3 feet equals 1,000,000 years, and we divide it by 100, and that equals 10,000. So 1/10,000th of a yard equals a human life. That 1/10,000th of a yard is about the width of a hair on our head. Our life compared to eternity is the width on a hair of our head compared to a 7.84 mile walk. If you want to get to eternity with God, if you want to do that, you want to experience that, is it worth shaking somebody's hand? Is your ego such that, no, I'd rather not have eternity than shake his hand, where my life only lasts the width of a hair on my head? Bam, it's over compared to a 7.84 mile walk. That's my life. Less than that. That is my life. Is it worth it? Losing eternity because I refuse to shake hands. Serves me right. Okay. So always accept an outstretched hand. Take the ego, put it over here, focus on the big picture. I want to get to eternity. I want to do the 3 simple commandments that Jesus gave. Love God, love one another, make disciples. That's it. Is it worth eternity having that long, 7.84 miles, having that, is it worth it? Or is it, no, I'm going to keep my petty griefs. What griefs I have, alas, what griefs they have, alas, I know not, said Mark Antony in Shakespeare's Julius Caesar. Okay, wow, well, we've taken a lot of time. Let's look at Seth Godin. Understanding carriage. This is really an important one, which I had never heard the term before. Carriage. I thought that was like a carriage, like a thing, like a horse-drawn carriage or a horseless carriage. I thought it was like a wagon. And it is, but it's also something different. Understanding carriage. The announcement of the planned Netflix acquisition of Warner Brothers, one of the last remaining major studios, is shedding light on a key issue we often overlook when thinking about culture, creativity, and creation. Carriage is the term for the method that books, movies, TV shows, and other media get from producers to the public. It's about who controls user access. So if we think of a carriage as something that moves something along, so you go from the creator to the producer of the content to the public. How does it get from here to here? That's called carriage. Until recently, bookstores were a largely open system. Any publisher had a chance to get any book into any bookstore, sometimes with prime placement and promotion. Right, so you produce a magazine, you go to a publisher, they publish it. How does it get to a public? Through a bookstore. Publishers could get to bookstores. Okay. Radio stations offered carriage to record labels. When labels tried to bribe the program directors, payola, the power of this carriage was clear and the practice was banned. Right. So I want to get to the public. I need a radio station. I will pay the radio station to play my thing and nobody else's stuff. Okay. That's not cool. Even so, major record labels had power because they and they alone had a chance to get a record heard and played. Right. So how do you go from the creator to the publisher and then the publisher to the public? Throughout the 30s, film production in the US was controlled by about 8 studios, with 5 of the studios had their own theaters. With this advantage, they could force the independent movie theaters to take a block of movies, exerting control. Right. So we produce the movies and we show them so the public gets to see this, what we produce. The tobacco companies originally were also highly involved in cigarette machines. So we're going to give you the machine, you put our cigarettes in it. Okay. It's the control of carriage that amplifies power. With just 3 major TV networks, an independent producer of shows had almost no chance to have their show seen without their participation. Middlemen control carriage, and that gives them the key to the gate. The internet was supposed to change the way creators dealt with carriage issues. If you wanted someone to visit your website, no one could step in the way. This was a breakthrough. The first in a century. Songs, books, videos, put them up and bring your own audience. Of course, once Google gained traction, they offered to engage in thinly veiled payola. Pay Google for search ads and traffic would come to your site. Don't pay, no play. Amazon started out as an everything store, treating all books and then everything else they sold evenly. If an author or publisher could get the word out, Amazon ensured that the item would be found. Widespread and open carriage of ideas and products. Alas, if you've noticed that the Amazon shopping experience has gotten a lot worse, it's because they're maximizing their ad profits, payola, and taking efficient carriage away from those who won't pay or partner. And Netflix. Hollywood is petrified. If Netflix further integrates into production, as well as buying another large library of previously produced content, they fear that there will only be one streaming platform, and with control over carriage, one company will control what gets made and what gets seen. It doesn't really matter how many studios there are. It's not hard to start one. What matters for the future is that carriage and the profits that go with it are available to anyone with a studio, meaning getting it from production to the public is available. The solution, one that Netflix would probably benefit from, is to offer to adopt more of a YouTube approach to carriage. Allow anyone who produces video content to show it on Netflix. Pay them based on views. If you've seen with YouTube, as we've seen with YouTube, creators don't mind if there's just one place to be seen as long as carriage is available fairly. Okay. So people are saying, yeah, Netflix is fine as long as my stuff can be seen. I can put it up there and promote it and get it published. Creators of everything, from LinkedIn posts to podcasts to documentaries, need to think hard about carriage. Attention is one of our precious resources, and our culture benefits when it's not centrally controlled. Right. Okay. Produce, have a way to get it to the audience. That's the carriage. And we want to avoid payola. Okay, thank you, Seth Godin. That was very deep. That's a whole class, whole hour could be spent on that. And time is sort of up. Let's see, what else are we missing here? Well, let's just finish with I am my connectome. One more minute on I am my connectome. So what is stored in the neurons of our brain? Our lived past, i.e. memories, our anticipated future, our ability to simulate, our personality. Those are things stored in our connectome, who we are. How do we know? Because if you damage your brain, that stuff is going to be affected. So it's in our brain. Last week on day 1, we learned from Daniel Amen, you don't want to damage your brain. Avoid drugs, alcohol, traumatic brain injury, something growing on your brain, a cyst, a tumor, or brain disease. Get plenty of sleep, get plenty of exercise, have your coconut oil, your aguacate, etc. Have all of those things. Take care of your brain, because what is stored here is who you are. That's it. Okay, so hopefully we'll see everyone tomorrow. As always, thank you for your participation. Gerardo serves me right. Okay, serves me right. I'll get you. And we'll see everyone hopefully tomorrow. Pass the word, spread the word, click the bell, do all of that stuff. See you later. All